My name is Tom Fisher. I'm a professor at the Horn Point Laboratory. I've been studying the Choptank Basin since probably the first week that I got here. For years we've been measuring water chemistry at the outlets of a series of watersheds in the Choptank. And these watersheds vary in their land use from being largely forested to being largely agricultural. And we noticed there were very strong patterns of nitrogen and phosphorus concentrations. Where there were more people and more agriculture, we had higher concentrations of nitrogen. Where there was more forest, there was much lower concentrations. And I was able to develop empirical relationships between how much land use was present and the concentrations of nitrogen and phosphorus in the streams. And one day I was thinking about this, and I thought, you know, I could make a little spreadsheet model that would include these empirical relationships so that you could predict for another watershed where we hadn't made those measurements what the concentrations ought to be based on their land use and their soil properties. And in fact, that worked fairly well. And again, a little bit later, I realized that, well, we could even use the spreadsheet model for estimating what would happen if we made changes in land use, or if we added some best management practices to try to improve water quality. So the best management practices then help to reduce how much nitrogen and phosphorus might be leaving as a result of the land use patterns. So I built best management practices in stream buffers, upgrading septic systems, upgrading wastewater treatment plants, winter cover crops. Then there was an opportunity working with some school teachers a few years ago with Laura Murray, where we used this little model to show the school teachers, and there were some folks from Chesapeake Bay Foundation, I think, as well, how difficult it is actually to make changes in water quality, so that they could actually use the spreadsheet to say, okay, if we put in this many stream buffers and upgraded septic systems, what would the impact be on water quality? The goal for them was to make a 40% reduction in nitrogen and phosphorus, and it also, I added some economic estimates of the cost of doing things. How much does it cost to put in, set aside land for a stream buffer, or to, what's the payment for winter cover crops, or whatever the best management practice was. And that whole approach, this very simple spreadsheet model, has evolved into a tool that we now use for for both teaching and for planning purposes for a given watershed where you know the current land use patterns and where the BMPs are. You can then take this tool and say, if I put in so many acres of this best management practice and upgrade this many septic systems, what's the impact going to be on the nitrogen and phosphorus is leaving that watershed? It actually calculates the concentration with the export. And so it's a very simple model, but it's something that is very accessible and that gives you a first cut on what the impact of best management practices within a watershed are.